Hello, welcome to the 80th episode of Unifying Force. I'm Kat, joined by Dave and Gio. How is everybody?
Hey, doing well, doing well.
Yeah, all good here. Thank you for asking.
All right, Dave, what are we talking about today?
So, there's a lot of announcements in the Star Wars coming out. There's a lot of new things. There's a lot of new stuff. We will get to. I think the major thing is going to be we have a brand new show dropping in just weeks at this point. But there's some other announcements ahead of that. Is Andor? Woo! We have a date. What do we think?
April 22nd. That's a lot sooner than I thought.
Agreed.
Yeah, hopefully it's not rushed, but there'll be a much quicker kind of speed to the season because we know it's covering a much longer time period in a small number of episodes. So, yeah, hopefully it's all balanced out nicely. Sometimes the second season of shows can be a bit of a falling off from a very good high quality first season, but because it's the same team producing and kind of writing and directing and acting for the most part, hopefully it'll be sustained high quality from season one.
Well, and because they have an end game, it's like, a lot of shows that get a second, are looking to just get a third season or just looking to get a fourth season. Nope. We know where this goes. We just need to see they have an end point. This is where we need to get to over these many episodes. So hopefully that kind of that, and the introduction, we've been looking for the introduction of K2, and it looks like I'm excited for it. I think there'll be good things there. What will be my question is, are they going to be able to offer us surprises and things,
Well, the showrunner, Tony Gilroy, said that the one thing he wanted to improve upon with season one was to try and bring in like casual non-Star Wars fans to watch the show, which they said they weren't able to do the first time around.
Right.
So that, like, maybe it won't be as inside baseball for certain things. I don't know.
Well,
because it is season two.
There was a lot of that. It was Swarzy, but I think, other than it kind of was the slow burn to start off with, I think casual people could have seen some of that. It wasn't hit you over the head, this is Star Wars.
Yeah, but I assume that he was looking at whatever the metrics were for the viewership for season one, or however they determined that. And so I'm not sure what's going to be, because season one kind of had a cliffhanger ending. So it's like you kind of have to see season one if you're going to follow what's going on with these characters in season two. So maybe they're counting on word of mouth to say, hey, you should really go check out this show. It's actually really good, because they want to make people know it's a legit good show and not just like, oh, it's not just a fluke the first season. This is a good show.
Well, they're short seasons too. So it's like, if you can get somebody to be interested in it, it's not like you can't go binge the first season the weekend before.
Yeah. It's a little longer, 12 episodes, and each one tends to be like 45 minutes to an hour, like all the Star Wars series really should be.
Exactly.
It take a little bit longer, but
We managed to get Spencer to binge Firefly before this week's watch along. So
How long is that?
Firefly is
13
14
episodes, I think.
episodes, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's around 40 minutes to an hour per episode as well. I think like with a lot of shows back then.
TV with
pilot.
commercials.
Yeah. The pilot and the final episode tend to be a bit longer to set the table and then clean it up at the end.
Yeah, but the last episode was not the last episode because people did not know that was the last episode. You know, it's like, oh.
Yeah. That's it's interesting. Do you think that Andor is kind of in the public conscious enough to be known as a good TV show, period, full stop, rather than just good for Star Wars? Because they're very different things.
I don't know, because the quality of their other content is bad enough right now that, like you said, it's been changing the conversation around Andor to say, oh, it's really good compared to, what they've been doing. Even though it is genuinely better than that on its own merits, it's a good show. So I think season 2 will have to really knock it out of the park, and Skeleton Crew will have to be decent. I mean, it is a kid's show, so it should be good to help start turning that conversation around.
I want to know, why is it that how quickly we forget the joy and the mainstream popularity of Mando season 1
and 2.
Yeah,
right.
Season 1
is
and 2,
just like that jumped out and grabbed people in the D+, and Grogu and the Mandalorian became cultural icons across properties and cultures and whatnot. And now everybody's like, oh, the Disney Plus shows are crap. Like, well, yeah, everything. I mean, Happy Days, they literally jumped over a shark on water skis, man. Just
and gave us the phrase.
Yeah.
They were clawing for ratings at that point, but I think part of it has to do with the fact that the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian were like 1-2 punch, 2019, 2020, and so it's like it feels like it's been a while, especially since you haven't had a movie in 5 years, and given just how bad some of those other shows. I mean, Book of Boba Fett, Mando season 3, Obi-Wan, Acolyte, Granted, that's a lot of
there's been a lot of stuff out there, and I think in general. Oh, see, Skip's like a fan of season 3 there too.
My God, we have an actual live comment. This is a miracle.
Ooh, it is. It's
not been live for a long time.
We didn't even necessarily mention we are live for a change.
Yes,
so nice. Please comment. Is we managed to get ourselves all together at this time, but yeah, I don't know that the other Disney Plus show content is doing a whole lot of favors either. Is by my daughter's account, who has been a huge fan of the previous the Descendants, the new Descendants movie. It's just an absolute train wreck. They're kind of phoning it in at this point, but I can't even really think of what the shows that would be. I'm not watching any other shows other than Star Wars on Disney Plus.
Well, I mean, they also, they did the Willow show, and that got pulled from the server.
Yeah.
And then there was another one. I think The Secret of Sulphur Springs was said to be a good show. That got pulled from the server. I'm not sure why. And so it's like, okay, now you're pulling good shows off the streamer. But then you had Andor season 1 in there, which was really good, but it admittedly wasn't everybody's cup of tea because it was a slow burn type show, very different. And it didn't help when you had all of those. Yeah, Skip's right. It's not just Star Wars. It's Disney. Because remember, Bob Chapek took over and he prioritized streaming. And he had this, and Marvel was a problem too, because he had all these other mediocre Marvel shows coming out. And it was like a gluttony of mediocrity. And people were kind of getting frustrated with it. So when you combine that with all the cancellations on Star Wars side, in fact, you haven't had movies so long, and it just kind of starts building this whole thing to where we are with the latest news, which is that they've taken another Star Wars movie off the release calendar because they have the Mando Grogu movie set for May 2026, which is originally the Rey movie slot, but they had another one for December 2026. People assumed it was going to be the Rey movie, but it might have been originally requested or reserved for something else, and now they just took that off the schedule and replaced it with Ice Age 6.
Well, let's really talk about that. That was unreasonable, stupid, and that never should have been put on there anyway, because why in God's name would you release 2 Star Wars movies within 6 months of each other? Like,
yeah, they made that mistake already.
I don't care if you actually had them ready and were ready to go at that point. If they
I think they're taking the cue from Marvel, because Marvel, even when they were doing well, they had 2 or 3 movies a year.
Yeah.
So they probably think that, if they can do it, maybe we can do it too. And I'm guessing that since the December 2026 thing was on reserved for a while, I wonder if that was going to be the original release date for Mando Grogu before they pulled the Rey movie, and then they just moved it up 6 months, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Or were they thinking at some point that they would have Dawn of the Jedi by that point?
That's true. I forgot about that one.
Yeah,
we haven't really heard anything else.
I hope that's not the film. Of the 3 they announced, officially at Celebration in sort of April, May last year. I really hope it's not Dawn of the Jedi. That's secretly been completely wiped off the slate. We've not heard anything about that for a long time. And also just a different kind of calendar thing. I know Star Wars has this May connection historically from the first films, but I mean, say whatever opinions you have about the sequel trilogy, that aside, I really enjoyed having Star Wars in Christmas time.
I did.
I thought it was a fun escape, and also, because it's Star Wars and it's nostalgic for a lot of us, it's a really cozy kind of friends and family type film as well. So it has that holiday feeling to it, and I like the idea of having a December placement for a new Star Wars film. It's a shame.
Yeah, I like that as well. As my brother bought the entire family. That was their Christmas for a couple of years there. We're all going to go out together to the theater on this date, like the day after Christmas, and we're all going to watch Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a fun outing to have at the time of year.
I think it stands to reason that Dawn of the Jedi has the best chance of getting made because they already have a good working relationship with James Mangold.
Yeah.
Then again, they might do the stupid thing they've been doing lately, which is, as we pointed out before, the reason they keep canceling and all these movies is because a director's unrelated movie comes out, doesn't do well, and the timeline is pretty solid. That you could say it's creative differences, but I'm looking at this and it's too every time it's something else comes out and then you pull it, you cancel it. So I don't know, they might do the same thing to Mangold over Indy. I hope not, because I think Mangold is
at some point you have to take onto the fault, and we talk about this all the time. It's not always, or shouldn't always, just be a director's fault, because there should be more than one person in charge of a movie. Okay, the director should not write, direct, produce. No, give us a writer. Let's have a story. Give us a producer. Give us somebody with some good power in casting to go out there and find, just the right actors for that script. And then, don't dump 2/3 of your budget on promotion. I mean, especially for Indiana Jones or Star Wars, it has the word Indiana Jones and Star Wars in the name. There's your promotion.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we're a few days, about a week or two away from getting the next big Indiana Jones IP with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which has been getting stellar reviews of an adventure video game. They say the storyline is significantly better than Dial of Destiny, and that it's set between Temple of Doom and Last Crusade. So that's fun. That could help boost the IP and Christmas sales and all that. And maybe Star Wars Outlaws at the same time will get another boost in sales because we're coming up on Christmas time.
Well, and Outlaws, I think they just said that there was a big update too. I don't know whether it's come out yet or it's about to come out, but there's an update to Outlaws. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but hopefully a thing. Do you think with the indie game and there still being content in that IP, how long will it be I'm not even going to say if anymore, but how long will it be before they go back and they revisit and they try and shove us in another movie or show or something?
With the current regime, I would say never, because again, they have this ideology: oh, something didn't work, they must hate it, let's not use it. Or oh, this guy made a movie that wasn't popular, let's not trust him. Star Wars, blah blah blah. Since Dial of Destiny was a huge flop, so it would take a while. But I mean, all due respect to Harrison Ford, don't be naive. They're going to reboot this sometime. It's a huge, big piece of IP at Lucasfilm. They're not just going to leave it sitting on a shelf. Then again, they might change a lot of what it is, because the idea of a character in the 1930s pillaging and plundering native cultures is not really kosher in 2024. So they would have to change that a little bit. But
Here's an idea.
As they
Get
should.
a legacy.
Yeah,
no,
and obviously there's plenty of other stories in that realm you could tell without doing that. You can make them like take inspiration from the Doc Savage stuff. You know,
I think that's perfect, Scoob. Is that solves the, we're not technically replacing Harrison.
yes,
thing.
Yeah.
animated series. That's great.
Yeah.
It'd be a good spot for that. Yeah, Disney used to do animated adventure shows all the time.
Well, and we need a spot for that anymore, and it doesn't need to be just streaming. Is like, where's the Disney afternoon? Like, let's put Saturday morning cartoons or something back on ABC and make it, destination television.
Well, that's them trying to force everybody to streaming because they want you to subscribe and make money.
Yeah.
And even though we are now, just this past few days, 2 years on from the firing of Bob Chapek, significance being he was the one prioritizing streaming, and so far we only have one confirmed Star Wars movie in development at that time, which is Mando Grogu, which by all intents and purpose is going to will make its release date. But it's like, okay, we're getting back into gear. Let's get something going, because obviously the way the Acolyte was received and what the insiders were saying, that Lucasfilm was totally blindsided by the poor reception of that show, tells you more about what's going on over there with the echo chambers and all that. So, and now that the Rey movie is once again stalled, and Stephen Knight was their third different writer they had for that. So it's like, and I'm reminded of when they, remember when they announced that big writing cabal they had for High Republic? I'm like, oh, we're going to plan this out. It's going to be great. It's like, well, if you did that for comics, why can't you do that for movies? Now, maybe, assuming the Simon Kinberg report is true, because remember, Lucasfilm did not announce this. This was a scoop. It's possible that that's what they're doing. They're having them sit down and actually plan it out. But it still feels like, okay, if you can get somebody to plan out a whole trilogy, why is it so difficult to plan a Rey movie? And I get that there's a lot of indecisiveness because, the next episode after, even if they don't call it episode 10, the next step in the direction where you're going to take Star Wars, it's like, yeah, it's a responsibility, but you have a whole story group which could help you with this, and it's like, it shouldn't really be this difficult. And again, characters or people are aging out of certain roles, so it's like, tick to tick, come on, let's get going, So
yeah, I mean, you're even to the point where, like, the characters from the sequel trilogies are going to be, unless you're having a thing where you're setting it so far in the future again, that they're getting older. Is you can't just have something that picks up and be the natural next step in the evolution of that story, because it's that many years later.
And we've heard recently from one of our channel members, I think it was Ashley, who went to New York Comic-Con, met John Boyega there, and that he was very enthusiastic still about Star Wars. He's like, yeah, you've had our bumps in the road with the way they did it, but I'd love to come back and love to, if they could, get their stuff together and, really I'd put a good story and a worthy story like they were hinting that they were going to do for Finn from the beginning. But then, we have to worry about the China dollars. Oh, they don't like this. Let's shove this character aside. Let's not push this. It's like, oh God. It's like, trust your IP and trust if you have good characters, good stories, well told, people will come.
Yeah.
And again, same thing with Poe. It's like Oscar Isaac and John Boyega, that they had such great chemistry that like you're talking about a Rey movie. I'm like, why not have? I mean, yeah, Poe and Finn might show up in a movie like that, but let's take advantage of that. Let's do like something. I mean, granted, I don't know what Oscar Isaac's opinions are currently. I know they're kind of upset with the way their characters were written in Episode 9, but
oh yeah,
I think they would be game to come back if they put a concerted effort to make a really good movie. And it's like, guys, these are good assets you could use, and crickets.
Yeah,
I think they would come back for the right project and the right kind of structure, and if they can trust in Lucasfilm, which is quite difficult these days because if you look at purely numbers, there are far more cancellations than there are completed projects now with Lucasfilm in the last couple of years, and it's a shame they're so quick to kind of pull the plug and abort mission on ideas that sound quite good, or the kind of structure that they have laid out initially. Because like just talking about the kind of revolving door of writers, it just reminds of what they did with Solo and how there was so much uncertainty with that film. Ron Howard came along at the end to kind of solidify things and gave a pretty safe but fun film, whereas initially they had a lot more kind of daring in Lord and Miller being the guys to do the Solo film.
Like this right here, what Skip is talking about.
Yeah, Skip says with social media, there's no need for early breaking news on movies that are not far along. Agreed.
Yeah, in the old days, you had to start, you had to start the press, like leak things and so much further along so the word would get out there. But now it's instantaneous and it's worldwide instantaneous. So stop talking about it until it's actually going to happen.
And this is something I'm surprised that the studios didn't learn from COVID, which was that the few movies that got put out in 2020, 21, they didn't have those big press junkets, but they still did as well as they were expected to do given the circumstances. Like, see, you don't need to do these gargantuan press junkets and sending people around the world. And often a lot of the pundits I listen to will say that studios don't seem to have a grasp on how much people go to YouTube for things like in social media for promotion. It's not expensive to draw a poster and drop it on social media or something. It's like, that is how, or take a little sizzle reel and put it there. It's like, that's what you should be focusing on instead of spending God knows how much money they have to send their stars all around the world, jet setting, probably in 5-star hotels, to do these interviews where they're being asked the same dumb questions it's like, no, you don't need to do that. Skip's right. When you have something like Star Wars, it'll just advertise itself practically. Like even the hate channels are still going to go out and watch what it is that they want to hate because they need to see what it is they're not liking. But yeah, so that's something. But I think that also comes down to they could I think Lucasfilm could take a page out of the Eon Productions playbook. It's the James Bond company where they do not announce a project until the day before they start filming, because they put their foot in their mouth pretty bad back in 1990 at the Cannes Film Festival when they announced the third Timothy Dalton film, Property of a Lady. And everybody's all excited. Oh, but then MGM went bankrupt for a few years. And by the time that was over, the Cold War was over. They couldn't use the story. That's why some nonsensical plot elements were carried over into GoldenEye that didn't really need to be there, as great as that movie is. But the point is that they learned a lesson and they don't over-advertise, and they're absolutely ready. Even when the entertainment people get scoops of what's going on, they do not say it until they are ready to say it.
Yeah.
The only time I remember that they broke that was when they decided not to announce the title of Bond 25 at the launch event because they changed their mind the morning of and decided we can't go with the title we picked, Genome of a Woman, because it's just bad. And then 4 months later, some scooper they found out got a hold of it. And they're like, well, do we wait for them to break the news in a social media post, or should we just say it now? And so they just put out a very generic, cheap poster, but they had an animated logo that said "No Time to Die" because that was them trying to get ahead of the story. But otherwise, they don't say shit. It's like they ain't seen nothing about the fact. I know for a fact from insiders they are auditioning actors for Bond. They're not going to tell anybody, and nor should they. It's like, don't feed the machine of and it's like Star Wars. It's like, yeah, I get that you have these conventions that you put on, but Celebration is so much more than just the announcements. And it brings me no pleasure to say that these announcements just don't mean anything anymore because of the cancellation rate is so high. And yeah, I get that they're making a lot of money on merchandise, and that has to part of the reason why they haven't had a change in leadership, because we're still making money on that and making money on Skywalker Sound and ILM. It's like, but you were making money on that stuff before you bought Lucasfilm. So it's like, I don't know. It's like, if assuming the Kinberg trilogy gets scrapped, it might.
Mm.
Assuming that the Dawn of the Jedi movie gets, again, they announced that, and James Mangold came out on stage. It's like, how long do you need to keep delaying the release date for that? Like, if that's his next project, that's not his next project. He's doing the A Complete Unknown is the one he just did. That's coming out next month. So I would assume once he finishes the press junket for that he would go back to focus on Dawn of the Jedi if they're going to make a concerted effort to actually make that movie.
Yeah,
I would not be surprised if it gets scrapped because of the indie performance.
No, you got to get in there, and how long will it take to get a script? You know, do you go with material that's kind of, how much do you go in there? Grandmasters, there is no Simon Kinberg trilogy.
Yeah, I agree with Grandmaster.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, yeah, somebody got a scoop on it, and I would have no surprise if it was like what they do all the time in Hollywood, is that you invite somebody in for a meeting, and they talk about it, and then they leave. Like James Mangold, he confirmed that the rumors that he had been brought in to potentially direct a Boba Fett movie were true. He's like, yeah, we sat down, we had those conversations, but we ultimately didn't, see eye to eye or whatever, and then we left. So that could be all this little news report is. It may not be anything, and I certainly don't have.
Well, all of the reports that they're getting is sad that you have to sit there and you go through the source one at a time. Is like, who's reporting this? Where did the original thing come from? Because nobody is going back to the original source to do it. Is every single clickbait site just picks up on what one said, and they don't care about sourcing. There is no credibility in journalism anymore. Is that you just put out whatever they said. I mean, when they were sitting there and talking about the days that Mandalorian and Grogu has wrapped filming, and they're headed for post-production. It's like, no, they weren't. They were still on set. There's documentable proof of that. And
there was, I think, when it comes to entertainment news, the best reliable sources are Deadline, Variety, and Hollywood Reporter. So when Hollywood Reporter,
the traditional outlets.
Yeah. So when Hollywood Reporter reported that their Lucasfilm source said that the attitude at Lucasfilm, not Mando and Grogu notwithstanding, because again, I feel that that's not a coincidence that they announced that movie within 2 weeks of Stephen Knight leaving the Rey movie, that they feel that Rey is their only cinematic asset, which again, they kind of pushed that at Celebration, because it's like, why is this not a Poe, Finn, and Rey movie? Why are we not capitalizing on that chemistry? No, we're going to push through. And granted, the source didn't say who said it, and the way the article made it sound was almost like it was kind of like the mindset of some of the people over there, which I wouldn't be surprised by given a lot of their other choices lately. And so if that's true, it's like you have all sorts of cinematic assets that you could seize upon. There's so many characters you could do movies of or stories that you could adapt into films.
Sure.
It's like, and it seems to be legit, because it's like, how hard is it to get a good movie? Hollywood is always having people cranking out scripts and making movies. How hard is it to make a movie? It doesn't have to be the second coming. Not every Star Wars movie has to be the second coming. No. You could get good content with small victories and good movies, but it's like they keep, all the news is around, the Rey movie or Dawn of the Jedi. Like, dude, guys, just.
I want to know what the hierarchy is in getting a Star Wars movie made. Okay, is who has to green light what over there, and who are the suits or the
president,
possibly MP suits or whatever, that are saying things like this when allegedly Filoni is supposed to be in charge of creative development, and you don't hear him saying that, because there's no way Filoni said that Rey is our only asset.
Right.
That, the creator of Ahsoka and Mandalorian,
who is also supposedly going to do a Mandalorian crossover movie.
Yeah. Is there. But who is saying this stuff? And I don't doubt that they're at Lucas. There's a person at Lucasfilm, but are they a person in the chain that says
think so, because it's like, okay, so you have Kennedy, and then Carrie Hart is up there as well as content development for all the projects as well, executives. But again, looking at the decisions they've been making, I kind of buy that would be the attitude. Because again, they picked somebody who made a documentary about gender politics in Pakistan to direct the Ray movie, who has never done a fiction narrative film before. Why? Because
Huge risk.
because it's the whole agenda. You know, they're pushing that kind of stuff. And I don't like agreeing with that Phantom Menace crap, but the evidence is starting to line up that's kind of what their mindset is. Like, again, at the Acolyte, they were very proud of themselves for having a very diverse cast. And like, good, you should have a diverse cast to reflect the whole fan base. But they didn't really take the time to write really great characters or a good story for it. And we know from what Leslie Headland said she wanted the show to be, that's clearly not what happened. And she's like, no, this is going to be a one-season show, a limited series, dark in tone, Sith-oriented. Oh, you know enough about the Jedi. Let's start with the Sith. Clearly, that's not what happened. Somebody, the executives, started tampering with it. And one of the sources that have been close to the insiders say, yes, Lucasfilm was blindsided by that. They spent $250 million on it because it was going to be their Shogun. They wanted, this was going to be a big thing celebrating the High Republic, and it didn't work because they're thinking, well, we checked all the boxes. Why is it not working? You know? And so, and then when you find out that you're picking people, oh, you did a documentary about women's rights in Pakistan. Great. And it's a good movie. But what does that have to do with narrative fiction filmmaking? Now, I've worked on made documentaries in film school and fiction films. Obviously, that's a micro level. It's a completely different thing because with the documentary, you know what topics you want to cover, but you don't really know what the story is going to be. You have to find the story in the edit. It's much more difficult to do that. But it's like, okay, so let's pick somebody who still hasn't apparently familiarized himself with Star Wars. Because every time she gives an interview about it, she still doesn't seem to know what's going on with Star Wars. And somebody who's not made a movie to here's the keys to the Ferrari. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, to be fair, they gave the keys to the Ferrari to J.J. Abrams and his writing team, which wasn't a good decision either. But it's like, or rather taking it away from Colin Trevorrow, who's had a good job with his script. But it's like, and then again, this is the same studio which is triggered by, oh, we can't call it Slave One anymore. This offends people. It's like, that tells you the mindset of what's going on over there.
Yeah, completely irrelevant.
Us a good
fixating on small details.
On whatever. Okay, Grandmaster has several cool comments I want to get back to. There's only 2 currently greenlit projects, Mando and Grogu. Yeah, Ahsoka. Everything else in development and back and forth in development. They've come out again in the last couple of weeks that the Patty Jenkins movie may be back. You know, okay. I am all about,
which never should have been scrapped to begin with.
Go ahead. No, absolutely not. Because, like what you were talking about is she has a bad outing. I don't think it was completely her fault that Wonder Woman was that just, there's too much stuff thrown in the thing and bringing back Chris Pine. Dude, just no. That's not all the thing.
Yeah.
Well, she did say she had more creative control, so that's a part of it. But
everybody in there, and Iger's headed out, but what I'm saying is Iger shouldn't affect this. There's no friggin' way that the CEO of that entire company should be the person pulling the strings behind each and every damn movie. There's, a creative officer in charge of Lucasfilm or Star Wars, and that's where that should go. And you either trust that person to do their job or you replace that person. You shouldn't have to say,
well, I know that Iger did sabotage the sequel trilogy because he's the one who mandated the release dates to be so close together rather than doing 3 years between each movie. And then he also mandated that they had to have spin-off movies in every opposing year. And so
terrible idea.
He's probably the one mandating the release dates. And I don't think it's just, and again, like I said, once the news broke in January that the Rey movie lost its writer and was basically, shelved again, I don't think it's a coincidence that they quickly announced Mandalorian Grogu's. I bet Iger picked up the phone and says, no, you are making your May 2026 release date, come hell or high water. So they had to pick something to do, and that's what they picked. So he's mandating that. But again, what is the leverage over there that Kennedy has? It's like, it's not normal the amount of projects you've been developing and canceling. When you say developing, that also involves spending a lot of money, because look how much money they spent on the Colin Trevorrow thing. They had storyboards, they had a script, they were booking locations, all this stuff, and then you canceled it. It's like, how much money of the final Rise of Skywalker budget was allocated to the aborted Colin Trevorrow movie, which got aborted for no good reason whatsoever? And it's like, there comes a time where you have to pump the brakes on this and give it. And so if Iger's replacement, comes to his senses and says, kind of like what Zaslav said about when he killed the Planet HBO to put, or the Planet Warner Brothers to put DC movies straight to Max. He's like, no, these belong on the silver screen, and he's like, no, we are making these movies. And I feel that Disney needs to have somebody like that to sell Lucasfilm. It's like, look, Chapek's been gone for 2 years now. Iger was not pushing the streaming agenda as much. So you need to get Star Wars back in the theater, and you need to get, your heads out of the clouds and get back to making good stories.
Make two separate tracks, okay? We've always had, there's always been the made for TV movies, or have a theatrical track and have a made for streaming track. You can do both.
Yeah.
And just, okay, this one has this amount of budget, this one has this amount of budget, we're doing this, we're talking these stories over here, we're talking those stories over there. And then if both are going well, then you have your giant crossover huge event thing. And
again, case in point, look at Warner Brothers just did with the Penguin show. It's like Matt Reeves, who's in charge of that Batman subset, appointed other people to do the Penguin show. Lauren LaFranc was showrunner, did an excellent job, wrote a show which is compelling, excellent writing, great world building and character development, but written in such a way that you're not going to have to watch that show to understand what's going on in part two. Like, you could go from the first movie to the second movie and it works. Like, that's what you need in terms of writing in general for all of these streaming shows at Disney, be it Marvel or Star Wars, that you shouldn't have to be required to watch this to understand what's going on here. And I think, again, that's probably also what's responsible for the diminishing returns at Marvel.
They did originally in Marvel, and with the why did it just leave my brain as soon as I started talking about it? The Clark Gregg show.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Right. There were definitely plot points that happened in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that you got more from if you'd seen the movie, but did you have to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? No. Did you have to watch the movies to enjoy Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Yeah, you had to have some quasi knowledge of it, but was it required?
No, not at all.
And I like I like this too, is if Rogue Squadron doesn't go as a feature film, Rogue Squadron could potentially make a Disney Plus show, and it might be more appropriate there now because we're far enough removed from the hype of Top Gun Maverick, which that would have capitalized on.
That's precisely why it should still be a movie. It's like have it be a movie about, like, people know the character, they know the Rebel Alliance, they know the Empire. Just have it be like a mission. Like, here's your mission, go. It's like that would be great. Yeah, that's what you need. And but like I said, Marvel, it's not just the diminishing returns in terms of the mediocrity of the shows, but it's the fact that it was an absolute requirement to watch the shows to understand what's going on in different movies, and that's not going to work. And Lucasfilm needs to, take a page out of what DC's doing with that universe and Matt Reeves and Penguin. And it's like, that's the type of stuff, that's the nature of the relationship between your movies and your streaming shows should be.
Well, but it remains to be seen, because that's, remember, only one universe within the DC universe. That's not even the main.
Yeah, because they haven't done the main thing yet. Yeah, but that's still. But I'm saying that dynamic there is good. Something that you should be doing for Star Wars. But you could tell that there's clearly certain things that they're focused on at Lucasfilm. That's like, look, Kennedy obviously doesn't have a problem finding talent. It's just you have to trust the talent, and you have to stop listening to the bean counters who say, well, that movie didn't make very much money. That guy's last movie didn't make much money. We shouldn't give it to them. It's like, by that logic, Steven Spielberg would have been denied making a movie after Always in 1989. And look how great his career has been since then as well. Oh, yeah. But that's basically, and I feel like I kind of want to say that to Kennedy, because it's kind of the logic you're using now. Because it's like, who cares if Wonder Woman 84 is bad? Look at all the passion that Patty Jenkins poured into that video that she did at Edwards Air Force Base for them. It would have been awesome. And we would have had that movie in December 2023 if you didn't get cold feet and we would be talking about maybe building out those universe and characters, but no. Or another thing, when they canceled Rangers of the New Republic, Paul Sun-Lee's character was really popular.
Oh, yeah.
You easily could have still done that show and cast other people in it. Granted, they shouldn't have fired Carano in the first place. That was just a stupid. Again, it further shows what's going on at Lucasfilm and what they're prioritizing. But it's like, again, a fan favorite character who everybody still lines up around the block at the cons to get the autograph. But that's the thing. You need to stop worrying about the things that they're clearly worrying about over there. And abandon these initiatives where you cast the best people for the story. Yes, I agree. You should absolutely keep reflecting the diversity of the fan base, but you still need it. But story and characters come first. That's like, look at how much Universal Studios had egg on their face when they announced that ridiculous Dark Universe crossover thing, where they cast all these A-listers to play all these iconic Universal monsters, and they did the photo shoots and all that. And the first movie was like a Tom Cruise action film. Just awful, because they're pushing their universe and this whole we have a shared universe agenda. We're going to force this on the audience. Never mind making good movies to go along with it.
No,
just kind of what's going on with Lucasfilm. It's like they have this idea, like the Ahsoka show. Even Ahsoka's a great character in the animated show, but in the movie, in that show, the live action, she was kind of this stoic character throughout. Mm-hmm. There was no dynamism in the performance of the writing at all for her. And she's like, you've been hunting Thrawn for all this time, and then you're just kind of blasé about failing to catch it. Well, it's like, what's going on? It's like, we're not here to just bask in, like when they put her and Luke Skywalker on screen together in the Book of Boba Fett, and they never actually told you why she was at Luke's planet. Yeah. I assume she was asking him to join her in the hunt for Thrawn, and he said no. But they did that because, look, fan service. And it's like, no, it's like, you need to write good stories and good characters, and fans will come. People will watch it.
Ahsoka, not so much Ahsoka, even Rebels Ahsoka. It was like some of the complaints of the acting in The Acolyte is where it's just you didn't get a lot of emoting. They're just like, we're going through.
Yeah, the acting wasn't good.
Telling the stories, the actors are just kind of yeah.
Listen, I thought the lead actor, Lee Jun-se, who played Saul, I thought he was a good actor, but the character was, again, not written well. And Carrie-Anne Moss is a good actress, not used. But the rest of it, you're right. It was like, and I've seen Amanda Stellenberg in other projects. She's a really good actress. Showed her no favors. But it's that same thing. They think, well, we've checked all the boxes. We got the diversity. People are going to love it. And then it's like, well, no, because you need good stories, good characters.
Well, yeah,
it's like, no, don't.
Just look at Andor. Andor has a huge cast. It's really diverse.
Huge cast, very diverse cast, and it's a wonderful show. Yeah. And that's what people are saying in the fan base now when they're talking about what they say the DEI initiative. They're not referring. Yes, there's some obviously bigoted people out there, absolute bigots, are saying we shouldn't have any. It's like, screw those people.
No,
but there's also those like myself who were talking about it, who are saying there's clearly an initiative that we're going to put that aspect of it first, but then forget about the story and the characters. Like, no, we can have both. It's like, Andor is a perfect example of having both.
You could, I'm just going to throw this one out there, is you're talking about your Rey movie and having Poe and Finn. You could give people what they've been saying and make that a relationship right there. And there's your agenda. And that could be well acted and could be well done, but.
Well, they're not going to do that because much like Disney, they want the money, and they'll pretend to support certain things without really supporting it because they want the money. But again, Poe, greatest pilot in the galaxy since Han Solo. Great, let's see that. Let's make a movie.
Yeah.
No, but we can't because
there was some good stuff that they did around the time that the sequels came out. There was like the young adult books that came out that tell more. There was a Poe book, and there was all sorts of.
Well, there's a whole Poe comic line that was great too.
Yeah, those stories are there, and I don't understand why. And this is across the board everywhere. When you have an established, amazing story that's in a comic book, just write that into a screenplay. Just take that and put that into a screenplay. You don't need to monkey with it. Some of my problems with, I know you love the Batman. Some of my problems with the Batman is that could have easily been a direct screenplay based on Batman Year One or Batman Year Two, I think is more appropriate to it. But they led you down that rabbit hole thinking it was going to be that, and then it wasn't that. It's like, it could have been Batman Year 2. You could have made a screenplay from that comic, and that would have got your Bat fans. And if you had done it well, that gets your general audiences as well.
Well, they got their general audiences to the tune of 70 million, I think.
Yeah, it didn't do too badly.
But, like I said, is
and the Penguin series has apparently caused the streaming rates to or the viewership to skyrocket for that movie as well, because the Penguin was just excellent.
Yeah, that's a good show. And we started watching that, and I didn't actually even tell my wife what that was. I didn't tell her I was watching like a Batman show. And she sat down, and it's like, oh, this is like this little story of it's like, so that worked. But yeah, we're in there and we're deep in it. But let's switch gears a little bit and talk about what we came here to talk about. The main thing that's coming down is Skeleton Crew. Okay, we've had a couple of trailers now, some really good trailers. It is upon us soon. They are doing what we talked about. Maybe they shouldn't do. They're doing a worldwide press junket, and they're shipping these kids around. They just did that over in the UK. They've filmed a bunch of it. It's like them talking about what's going on. They're putting some backing into this, and whether it's working or not, which I don't think it is, okay, is I teach in an elementary school. I'm there every day. Are the children talking about Skeleton Crew? Not a damn peep. It's just they don't really understand or know. You know, they're watching Young Jedi Adventures, but do they know about Skeleton Crew? No. But
it's a marketing failure, really.
I would think, you know, is why don't I teach 6 to 11-year-olds or 5 to 11, and maybe this is past that market. Maybe this should be more of the tweenies. That's what's in there, but I would have assumed at least the older students would have heard of it.
I would assume they're advertising it on the Disney Channel. But then again, not many people are into cable stations as much anymore. But
yeah,
it doesn't exist.
That's like I mentioned earlier. They need to get a handle on internet and social media promotions to know where the kids are, what they're watching, to be able to.
They want to do it. They just need to drop a crap ton of money and have Mr. Beast say the words Skeleton Crew, and then it's on.
You get 100 million views in 2 days.
That's how it should go, but that's how
you're right. Yeah. That's just it, though. It's like it's no different than a celebrity endorsement. You know, find somebody to endorse the product, and they figure, oh, well, we'll just have the actor endorse the product. It's like, yes, but you need to reach out to the people who are that all the kids and everybody are watching to at least talk about it, or you know, because
it's hard.
Adults and kids watch like late night shows and all that, but little kids aren't watching that stuff. You know, it's like they're not going to watch it or become aware of it. So unless their parents put them in front of the TV and turn it on, they're not really going to know that, hey, this is coming out. And then we had that report of the alleged runtimes of the episodes, which if they're trying to appeal to little kids, it might be true, but I hope it isn't. I mean, yes, because in total it would be 4.5 hours. In total, minus credits, it would be around 4 hours, which is a good length.
Yeah.
But the way they're chopping it, it was showing them chopping it up was not good. But that remains to be seen if that's true or not. But
it does. And you know, I am again being the optimist for this is if you're going to have a 17-minute episode, you better have a damn good 17-minute episode, and there better be a reason why it's only 17 minutes. You know, are you, is that the natural flow, and that's what you got to do to like get that real good clip? Because the Acolyte failed at that when they had like the first 2 steps of a battle, and then they cliffhangered it instead of, you know.
It's also that also wasn't even cliffhanger. That felt like a decision made in post that maybe we should cut this because it would feel almost like the camera ran out of film as opposed to being designed as an actual cliffhanger. But this, I think they can get some more fans because, you know, they cast Jude Law. That's going to help to bring in some people. You know, they tried to do the cutesy thing with the little Max Rebo kid.
Which they've said is not the same species necessarily.
Okay, yeah, but, you know, similar elephant person or whatever. But, and, you know, Star Wars admittedly is good at making great trailers out of shows that or movies aren't necessarily great, but the production value certainly looks a lot higher than what we had for Acolyte or Obi-Wan Kenobi or Mando Season 3. See,
It doesn't
Grandmaster
look
says
cheap.
Grandmaster says Skeleton Crew's early trailers have had low views compared to all of their other projects in the past. Disney realizes that the Star Wars brand is doing badly, and they planned a huge marketing campaign.
Yeah.
But where is that
seen
marketing
a whole lot
campaign
of
going?
huge marketing campaign. Is like there's this and that. I'm looking at the official Star Wars site YouTube channel, and the Skeleton Crew official trailer has had 3.7 million views. That seems low to me for
Mhm.
an online trailer.
Mhm.
So that
So we'll
series
have-
drops on December 5th?
That series drops December 3rd.
Oh, that's one in a week then, or a week, 11 days, 10 days,
A week and a half,
or
yeah.
7, 8, 9 days. All right, yeah, so
It's like happening, and so that campaign, if that's going to go and be huge, is, I mean, major spot in. There are things you can do still. If Thanksgiving is here, is get a major spot during some of the bowl games going on.
Yeah.
Have a friggin' Skeleton Crew float in the Disney World Thanksgiving Day parade. If you put Jude Law and those kids on a friggin' float in that right there.
Mhm.
That could be your
so-
press junket. You just do it in
Yeah.
one place, like you were saying. Do it, the headquarters of Disney in a way, and then have that go everywhere internationally at the same time on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, as the pre-roll adverts on streaming platforms like Twitch and YouTube. It's not difficult at all. And I'm just thinking back to the promotion behind The Force Awakens. I remember going on their YouTube channel and seeing 12 TV spots, which are between 15 and 30 seconds.
Mhm.
And they also had international ones. There was a different trailer for Japan, for China, for South Asia, for South America. And I remember getting so hyped watching all of them, just trying to get like little tidbits, 3 seconds here, 5 seconds there. But just make, like Catherine was saying before, sizzle reel. Sizzle reel is perfect for an Instagram reel or a
See,
TikTok short.
I wonder if it's that the people that are in charge of marketing don't know what to do anymore with streaming. Is they're used to, let's run a TV spot during the highest rated thing, let's run a Super Bowl commercial, and that's what they know how to do, and people aren't watching that and getting that anymore. I mean, I don't even have network TV anymore. As much media as I consume, I cut the cord years ago and streaming only. I have no cable. I don't see those commercials because
I have been seeing little ads between Instagram stories for Skeleton Crew, but I don't really watch them because, like, I've already seen the trailer. I don't need to see more.
Yeah.
There's some of it there, but I think part of the press junket for all the interviews is they want, like, parents to tell their kids or something because, again, the kids I don't think are watching that.
Yeah.
But they could do shorter little promotional videos on their YouTube channel, because if kids are watching Young Jedi Adventures, which is a YouTube thing, I believe, right? Then they could advertise it there.
Well, it's the other thing of, is this mismarketing? If this is a children's show, or Star Wars in general is supposed to be marketed to 12-year-olds, George has said that repeatedly, is don't market it to the adults who are supposed to have their kids watch it. Market it to the kids who are going to force their parents to watch it.
Right.
Do that. That's where they go. I mean, my parents would have never gone to watch Star Wars unless I pitched an ever-loving fit and drug them to the theaters to do, that's how it is. Yeah, I believe that Disney Plus isn't doing so well as a streaming service. It's
it did. With Disney Plus hit its metrics a lot, or hit its goals a lot faster than others thanks to the pandemic. But I think they got spoiled over there and thinking that, oh, well, if we're this good, we can do no wrong. But numbers are starting to fall off to what they expected it was going to be at this point, or before COVID ever happened.
Goals to do, because there was a lot. I didn't pay for Disney Plus for the first 4 years. I didn't pay like that weekly or monthly or whatever. I capitalized on an early subscriber, like a D23 thing, where you can go pay a flat rate for 3 years worth of subscription. I got a free year with my cell phone plan, and then you throw that in, and that's where you were getting all of those people. Is people actually buying into it for the content? I think was a lot less than it was, and then there are a lot of people who buy the monthly plan, and then when their series is off, they cancel said subscription.
Yeah, the churn.
It's up and down and up and down and up and down, as opposed to staying for the content. Like, Netflix. I've owned Netflix since they still shipped DVDs through the mail, and it's been just a constant thing. And I watch it actually probably less than others, but it's just for the level of consistency, it has stuff there. But let's talk about the trailer. I like a lot of elements of the trailer, and I like the almost just shy of fourth wall breaking elements of the trailer. I mean, tell me that the little police station they started off in is not Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Is it not? That is Jennifer Grey. Jennifer Grey? Is it? No, who's in that? And Charlie Sheen what's the sister's character? What's the actress in Ferris Bueller?
Oh, I can't remember her name.
But
I'll look it up. Keep going.
Yeah. But that's what I see them sitting there, and we're getting a lot of different elements shown immediately in the trailer. I had to stop the trailer a couple of times and pause to see if some of those shots were like, is this taking place on Earth? Is something happening? Because we're seeing
Sarah?
What's that?
Mia Sarah?
No. The sister, not the love interest. That was his girlfriend. Mia Sarah was a girlfriend.
Jennifer Grey?
Yes. Okay, it was Jennifer Grey. Jennifer Grey and Charlie Sheen sitting on the bench. It's like, what are you hearing? My name is Shauna. It's like, oh, Shauna. That's what's happening. We're seeing space suburbia. We haven't seen that before. Like, literally, there's a shot with some speeders coming around, rounding a corner, and I stopped and I'm like, is that a Buick? What? Wait, no, is this? Which I think is an interesting concept. And
we also got news that there will be a third season of Visions.
Oh yeah, we did.
I thought was going to be announced at Japan, and I don't remember. Was this an announcement or was this started out as a scoop?
I thought it started out as a scoop. No spoilers for Skeleton Crew Grandmaster. No matter what we personally feel, the network itself has like a 48-hour ban on spoilers for Skeleton Crew. So even when we know is let's keep things that we've got on the network down. But yeah, I thought that Visions announcement was like a out of the blue scoopy thing. I didn't hear about it anywhere before they just dropped it. Yeah,
because now it's like, I hope they don't feel the need to just announce something for the sake of announcing something when it comes to Celebration next year.
Yeah. Well, I think Celebration announcements, there should be enough things to do.
Well, yeah, there's plenty of other things to do that don't have to involve announcements. Or you could just have a panel for the sake of having a cool panel,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's Star Wars has such nostalgic power across, I'd say, at least 2 full generations of fans. And they're trying to expand it, of course. But Star Wars Celebration could just be that. It could be celebrating what's come before. And I still think you'd have enough kind of pulling power and eyes on the event for it to be something that people really look forward to and kind of book their calendar months ahead of time. It doesn't always need to be, we've got this and that coming up, because as we've seen, there's no real consistency. And there's obviously some poor management and lack of leadership behind what's actually going ahead. So
that was another thing that came out.
Announcements so much.
That was another thing that came out in that report, where from Hollywood Reporter, that they're saying that they feel that they've been tapping out their nostalgia, and it's like, no, you're not. There's tons of things that fans are nostalgic about that you could still like. Hell, again, a Rogue Squadron movie is nostalgia The nostalgia steroids right there.
Yeah.
What about this part about Skeleton Crew? I'm trying to stay on topic, but this is it. And what you brought up is this going to capitalize on Goonies nostalgia? I think so. The network thinks
It looks
so.
like
We
it for
just
sure.
watched
Yeah.
And the thing it reminded me of was their old. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's going to have a horror vibe at all, but their Galaxy of Fear book series, which was the kids and their cantankerous uncle going off on these adventures. After I think their parents were killed in Alderaa's destruction, and they go off. It was a book series meant to compete with Goosebumps,
Mhm.
and some of the stories are pretty good. And I thought, and that's my first thought when they said Skeleton Crew running, these kids running around with this, roguish scoundrel or whatever, bouncing around the galaxy or whatnot. Like that sounded like a fun adventure that was maybe an offshoot of that. But at the way they regard the expanded universe, I doubt anybody over there right now has even heard of the Galaxy of Fear books.
That is probably true.
There's a deep cut. Yeah.
But I mean, this is so we've heard this was going to be Space Goonies. We heard no, it's not going to be Space Goonies. The trailer, it's Space Goonies. Okay,
Yeah, it's okay if it is.
Literally say like never say almost Goonies never say die. They very nearly say that.
Yeah, and they've got a good team behind it. I think the trailer says, from the directors of Spider-Man: No Way Home and The Mandalorian, and these are massive pop culture events that took place, as we discussed The Mandalorian and how it impacted far beyond the kind of normal Star Wars audience. And Spider-Man: No Way Home, I think, was by far and away the biggest film in 2021, which was a challenging year for film generally because of COVID. So, the team's there behind it, and it looks like they had maybe a little bit more creative free reign because it does have its own feel, and it looks, as we discussed before, really beautiful, very cinematic, and, a lot more investment in the look and feel of it than the Acolyte
and very
Obi-Wan show,
different
like
from
mentioned
things
before.
that we've
So
seen.
the signs are good.
I'm like at 6 seconds into the trailer, and I'm looking at a neighborhood it's Swarzy, but it could be down the street from Elliot's house in ET. It's we don't see that kind of rolling hills suburban what day-to-day life is. Andor has done more of that than most, but Andor has still had kind of almost post-apocalyptic urban, edgy, shadowy kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you don't see
cyberpunkian.
like what was idyllic life like on Alderaan for the general populace before the Empire. What was that? Where was that seen? The closest we've seen is the little snippets in Obi-Wan. But I think we're going to see some of that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the introduction of Major Tom?
Major Tom?
In the Skeleton Crew trailer, they're playing Major Tom, but they're singing, that's the soundtrack, but in a galactic language. I think somebody did somebody tell me it was in Huttese or something?
I had not heard that.
Yeah,
I know they did. I know they did a version in Huttese of Anything Goes from Temple of Doom for one of the Clone Wars episodes at the Hutt's palace, not Jabba's palace, but one of the other ones where Sice Noodles is singing Anything Goes, and it was clearly the same music and the same costumes and all that.
Yeah. Well, no, this is the music behind the Skeleton Crew trailer is Major Tom. Here be I'm not gonna sing because I'm terrible, but it's allegedly in Huttese. So that's that kind of fourth wall breaking kind of thing. Is it's major licensed music that they're putting. Will we see that sort of thing in the show? Are they going to keep?
They might, given what they did the same thing with Willow, which was just odd that you had like modern like pop music in there, and it's like, isn't this supposed to be like a medieval fantasy? It's just so odd.
It's easier in Star Wars if you do translate it to one of the fictional languages, like Mandoa or Huttese, or they're established, and that's a big treat for fans who might have tried to learn the language in a way.
Mhm.
And I think that's the kind of fan service that's good, because it reminds me when we were talking earlier about the MCU. Right at the beginning of their cinematic outing, Iron Man 1 was a Paramount film, and you didn't need to really know anything about Iron Man to enjoy that film. It was completely encapsulated and stand alone. But then you had the post-credit scene, which was like a teaser, and lots of people would have walked out when the credits started rolling. But if you were, sticking around, enjoying the music, appreciating the cast and crew, then you got that nugget. And I think that's what Star Wars can do more of, is have these kind of Easter egg nuggets that aren't slapping you in the face with nostalgia bait and are more integrated into the story. And Andor did that really well with, for example, Luthen Rael's gallery. There was so much in there, but it was, 3-4 seconds. And then a screenshot that was analyzed for days.
And it's sort of like when they did celebrity cameos that you didn't know were there because they were in costume or in makeup, as opposed to like Jack Black and Lizzo and Christopher Lloyd, which felt like all three of them were just there because they want to be in Star Wars. Like, no, there's a right way to do it, and then there's a wrong way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think Skeleton Crew's going to be really interested. Like I said, as I'm frame by framing over here through the trailer, and it just the suburbia scenes keep striking me. The fact that we're going to see not just the kids, but there looks to be a secondary story of the kids' parents, perhaps, behind that. And I think you're going to get something really cool that it's integrating. And I thought this was an interesting choice. This is something completely different for Star Wars, but we're carrying through a through line that you see Vane from the pirates that we saw in Mandalorian. From that group of pirates, is we see him repeatedly in the trailer, which would be Marty Matusz, who's been on the show before, who played that character. So I think that's an interesting choice to give it a through line to the established universe in that way.
Yeah. He was a really cool actor as well.
No, all the music in the show, not only in the trailer did they break the fourth wall and put in popular music. Missed opportunity.
That's interesting then that they're doing that in the trailer. Well, it's kind of like when the Gladiator 2 trailer came out and they had this like pop music, R&B or whatever it was, and people are like, huh? And then
I did not like that at all.
There's none of that in the movie. I saw it. There's none of that in there, but still.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you do translate it into Huttese or some language, then you can make that work. But that's another thing they should do. Bring back aliens who speak their own languages with the subtitles to make it feel more like Star Wars, rather than everybody speaking Galactic Basic.
Right.
It kind of shows that they're trying to go, wide beam with their audience capture and not really, and getting distracted by that, by thinking, well, let's go for as broad an audience as we can, and not, the sci-fi audience, the fantasy audience, the Star Wars audience that already is huge. But Skeleton Crew looks like it's got a balance of that. And yeah, I'm just kind of looking back at the trailer as well. And Dave, you're completely right. All the kind of background, family, suburban little shots are interesting. And, there's definitely space in Star Wars, maybe not in Skeleton Crew, because we talked about how short some of the episodes are reported to be, but that kind of slice of life aspect of the Star Wars universe. And we got that in Andor, and you could get little sprinkles of that, at least in the background of Skeleton Crew. But that could form, if you have a longer form Star Wars Disney Plus show, then you have time to do that. And Andor had the luxury of doing that, and it worked really seamlessly and felt organic.
Well, and who knows what the through line of this will be? Have they made it to be a one season and done kind of thing? I haven't heard anything about. Are there other adventures? Is this going to resolve itself? Will there be space for? Will there be space for season 2? I don't know.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, could leave it open at the end.
but I like the concepts. Is we do see, and it's got some familiar Star Warsy tropes looking like. It appears that they've gone to some sort of kid appropriate version of a cantina, maybe a market or some sort of restauranty place. Is you got to
Mhm.
throw a cantina in to get all your aliens in the Star Wars. Looks like you've got a cool ship that that's necessity in
Yep.
there. Um,
Flog that merch. Easy win on the side.
exactly. Is you gotta have. Well, they've already got the merch. Is we've seen figures already for a lot of these
Oh,
that are.
really? Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know if they're out yet or if they've been announced for the production, but I've seen figures.
Mhm. It's
Um,
intriguing, though. I mean, I know people don't so much go to physical stores and retail's not the way it used to be, but I remember being in Toys R Us and seeing Phantom Menace figures
oh
that were
yes,
out 2
those
weeks
were
before the
spoilers,
release. Yeah, yeah.
and they came. Oh, if that is true, that will be good. 45 minutes as opposed to the 17 craziness. That would be.
Yeah, I believe that. I hope. I'm a
Yeah,
believer in that because
I
just
want to
looking
believe that. I want
at
to
yeah, I
believe.
want to believe.
It's,
Star Wars
but
files. I want
yeah,
to
I
believe.
mean, figures had come out, and they need to get figures back out for kids. Figures
Mhm.
are Black Series figures are priced way towards to adult. It's not something that a
Yep.
kid can save their money for effectively
Yeah.
and buy enough characters to have fun with. I do
Yeah.
hate the packaging, hate the packaging, hate the packaging. But there is a new
Tweet at them. Let them know.
there's a new Star Wars line in the I don't know, it's probably $7 to $11 range or something of Star
Okay.
Wars figures, which would be more marketed towards children being able to buy them. It's a much smaller package. It's brightly colored and garish. It's almost like Liechtenstein pop kind of graphic artwork.
Okay.
Um,
Are those
but
3 3/4
those are
size?
3 3/4.
Okay. So
And
fits in
I
with the legacy.
believe that they're less articulated than the new ones. They're more like the old style, the original style figures. Um, I've seen so far, I think mostly classic figures. Yeah, I know,
I like
but
the new articulations.
but
Yeah.
if
I
that
wasn't a
gets
Kenner
us
kid,
the
so.
price point, right?
Mhm.
If that gets us back to the price point by simplifying it back to the classic, because I mean, I like the articulated figures because I am a huge fan of the Kung Fu Grip and the GI Joe.
You see,
Um,
once you pop, you can't stop with that.
yeah,
It's hard to go
yeah,
back.
but if giving us the classic, and see, here's the thing too. Think about this: if you're actually marketing this to children, the durability, right?
That's true.
You get the
yeah.
durability of those because I think I only broke a couple of those in my entire childhood that I still have now. Is like I popped X-wing pilot Luke's head off because again he had that massive dome.
Okay.
Well, he had the big helmet on. He's wearing that?
Right.
Is that one popped off? I think there was too much and not enough neck for that. And big head Han Solo. And that one just got broken because like literally was dropped out of a car window onto the street and recovered. Like, oh yes. But the figure itself, all it did was lose the head.
Okay. And you did a Leia and Jedi and rescued Han, so that's good.
Absolutely. But yeah,
fair enough.
So okay, we're getting long and we can keep going if we have other things to say, but let's do some predictions because it is only a few days out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So general predictions for Skeleton Crew, and then I've got a specific question I want to ask if we don't get to it. Any projections, Gio?
You know how I don't like to predict things, but
well, we will come back to this in another episode eventually and go like,
no, of course. Yeah, I think there's I mean, the trailer reveals this. I had always thought there was going to be a pirate ragtag element, which would probably be the villains, or motivating the story, chasing the kids once they discover something, or maybe Jude Law's character has a price on his head and he's evading people. I think it was confirmed a while ago that he is a Jedi, right? That's not a surprise, I don't think.
I have not heard that confirmed. I've heard that mentioned.
Okay.
I mean,
I thought that was
it's
established
mentioned in the trailer there, but
right.
I have not heard that confirmed. That may actually be there.
Okay. I don't know why that's been in my head since early on. And I wouldn't allow myself to hold on to that fact if it wasn't from a reputable resource like the ones that we mentioned, rather than just random clickbait. I stay away from the YouTube clickbait, fan servicey, let's break down 37 things you might have missed in the 30-second trailer. No, it's okay. I'll pick them out myself.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm doing. Is I won't watch the
yeah,
reviews.
yeah.
I'm doing the review myself.
I think, well, it looks like you got some good droid action in there. There's a combat kind of droid having some fisticuffs there, which looks good. There's a lot of grabbing onto things and ships spinning away and going on the side and banking. I'm gonna say in feel it's gonna be a little different to the Goonies kind of aura and vibe that we might have seen. I mean, I know you weren't the biggest fan of this in Ahsoka, but you got a bit of spacewalking in there just for a second in the middle of the trailer. So, maybe their ships, they've got to repair their ship somehow, get some parts, stay low, keep a low profile. They're being hunted by maybe a droid bounty hunter. And if Jude Law's character has any connection to the Force or the Jedi, then maybe he sees these 4 kids as potentially having some sort of mini trial, like we saw in Ilum with the Kyber crystals in Clone Wars and things like that. That's the kind of feeling I think this might be going towards. It's still hooking back into the central Jedi theme and a bit of the Force, but not it being the be-all end-all of the show. And I think that balance would be good because, we either see something like Obi-Wan or something like Andor, hugely divergent, never really something in between. And I guess The Mandalorian had a little bit of in between there with the dark saber and then coming across Ahsoka. So, I'm excited. It looks good. It looks really good.
First 2 episodes ratings higher than the Acolyte, but below Andor. Okay.
That's fair. And you mean ratings in terms of reviews or viewership? Because the viewership for the first 2 episodes of Acolyte was pretty high because there was a hell of a lot of interest in that. And then when they saw what it was, there was the drop off. So I'm not feeling that there's any buzz for Skeleton Crew like there was for Acolyte. But we will see.
Yeah,
I've only seen the trailers, so I don't really have any predictions because I don't really.
Okay.
No, it's like it's a kid show. He's taking him around. I've heard the rumor that he's probably a Jedi, and it makes sense that they would probably have him turn out to be a Jedi or something, and maybe some of the other kids are going to turn out to be Force sensitive or something, and we'll see where that goes. But I would like it probably if they keep it small. Like it doesn't have to become this huge thing. Like I remember the first 20 minutes of the first Fantastic Beasts movie. Okay, I like this because it's a small scale, fun little story. Oh, but then we have to introduce Grindelwald and turn it into this big thing, and then it just kind of goes off the rails. So I would prefer it if this could be its own small thing of little adventures. It doesn't have to tie into the grand scheme of things. Like not everything has to do that. So it would be nice if it remains just its own little fun adventure and its own little pop.
Like I said, it's got a tie-in already because obviously they're using the same pirates that were in Mando. But I don't think we need more than that. Is that doesn't have to do it. I am curious as to Jude Law, his character as well. It's why does he show up out of the blue and start helping these children who have obviously gotten in over their heads in some, classic way? I like that it's throwing to Goonies, is they're talking about booby traps as like, okay. Like I said, they almost is like literally like almost say Goonies never say die, we never give up. I think it's going to evolve before more than that. My question put out is because of why is Jude Law helping? Is like, is Jude Law a bad guy? Okay, is he gonna be part of the problem in there? Is he using these children for his own purposes in some way? Now, I think if that is the case, if that is the case, it's going to be one of those bad guys turned good. Is he's going to start helping them for the wrong reasons, those purposes, his own purposes, but he will be quickly won over to their side and eventually help them out for real. The Jedi are not beyond that. I don't know. As many times as I've seen that in trailers where they're like, the kids just assume that he's a Jedi.
What do we think the title really means for this show?
I don't know. Unless that is the name of the ship. Unless the ship is
I mean, that'd be good.
Could it be a further throw towards Goonies? Is it that your fourth wall kind of thing is calling it Skeleton Crew and then throwing in that? But like I said, is my best guess is Skeleton is the name of the ship.
Makes sense.
But you're going to see that, and here's a prediction that I don't know that is real, but that I would like to be real. Okay, let's see if I want Hondo Ohnaka. You want through. This is a place to put him. This is a place to do it. This is a place to do it well. I was hoping beyond hope that it was going to be Jaleel White as Hondo, but we've seen Jaleel in the trailer, and it's not. But I'm still hoping beyond hope that we get Hondo.
It would be very tonally appropriate for him to be in this show, so that would be cool.
Yeah.
And he must be, again, a character that's been connecting a lot, too, because, they put him in Galaxy's Edge as, like when you're in line for Smuggler's Run. So that's like, people know who he is. And each time I've been in line for that was, nobody's scratching their heads as to who's that. They all seem to know who he is. So he's a fan favorite.
Yeah, I think it would be cool and a cool place to throw him in, that you could that you can then see. You don't lose anything by tossing him in here to see how it bites, to see how people take to him, and then you could use that in the through level, and he could show up in Mando. He could show up here and there.
He's also somebody who you would want to have Jim Cummings' voice still, because that's the iconic voice. Because if it was Jaleel White, I mean, it'd be buried under the makeup, and you wouldn't know it's him. So, I mean, he could still show up.
Yeah,
not sure though.
I don't know.
Like they did, because I know they do that too. Because like I don't know what actor was standing in for Cad Bane in Book of Boba Fett, but they did have Corey Burton voice the character to. So that was
Cad Bane was
a nice connection.
Dorian Kenji. Dorian.
I think so. And I can't remember. Is the show take place before or after Mandalorian?
I don't know.
That was my question.
Around the same time, you could have somebody like Bane show up in that show. He'd be a threat to the kids.
He's got a history of threatening kids from Clone Wars.
On a relatively, I mean, we don't know what Vane's species lifespan is, but since you have Vane in Mando and you have Vane in this, I would assume it has to be in a window around that of 10 years plus or minus.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
So I would think the reason to have that group of pirates would be that it's happening in a similar time frame to Mando.
Now, did they confirm that it's going to be the same pirate captain, or is it just the same ragtag group and species? Because you always have interchangeable crews.
Pirate captain, didn't they blow up? Pretty sure that
right. Does this show take place after that or before that?
We don't know. I
Right.
don't.
So it
I
could
haven't
be.
seen the pirate captain. So in that, I think they blew up that pirate captain. Vane is the only one or two of that group that we know that survived. So they haven't spoiled it and shown us others that we already knew existed. So it could be before, it could be after. Like Vane
Well,
could
yeah.
be the new pirate captain, the leader of this group of what was left of that crew.
That would be cool. It could span quite a long while as well. It might not be exactly one episode follows the next, although I suspect it will be. Like a very short space of time, like an encapsulated adventure. But that's also why I think, given the trailers, this could have been a standalone film. I know there was not, the planning or the timing or the marketing for it that we've said. But in terms of quality, and I know we're judging a book by its trailer cover, but it does look a lot higher level and like more investments being going into it. And
now,
just
that would have
interestingly,
been an interesting concept right there, is throwing in a Space Goonies as a standalone film.
yeah, it's a real curveball for Star Wars.
Well, again, I feel that with this premise, that could be, again, like a Galaxy of Fear, have it be an ongoing series with multiple seasons. And the great thing about Galaxy of Fear was that it was world building, because each book was a completely new set of, well, it was the same three main characters, but it was always a different adventure they were going on, and just building out the universe. And
so I did not read that. I was not of the age of like Goosebumps and that at the time. Was it Scooby-Doo?
No, it was so you had these two siblings, and they're living with their uncle after the destruction of Alderaan, and he's kind of this cantankerous guy, and they're flying around in their ship going to, he has various odd jobs, and they get caught up in misadventures. Like one is the Eaters of the Dead with like these alien zombies, and another is a bunch of robots which have rebelled against their human or alien overlords and have taken over this ship that want to go conquer the universe. And then you have parasites and soul suckers, all sorts of crazy stuff. But each book was a standalone adventure that you could read. And I think the back of each book tells you basically who the characters are, so you're not really lost when you're reading it. And there might be an ongoing story, I can't remember, but it was neat because each one is world building. And it's neat, fun adventures that had a bit of a Goosebumps-esque type vibe with it. And I don't have the sales information. I'm sure nothing compared to Goosebumps, because R.L. Stine is still writing.
It was stupid, crazy, huge, and there was
and he's still writing stuff like that. R.L. Stine, but I can't remember who wrote the Galaxy of Fear books, but I thought that would be fun to have a series like that, like Skeleton Crew. It sounds like if it's only going to be 8 episodes long form, that they're going to tell a single story with it. But you could do not anthology, but again, like a show, kind of like where, Clone Wars has very episodic television, but there's still your ongoing story arcs, I feel they could do a series like that.
Yeah. The official press release for Skeleton Crew from the Walt Disney Company's original announcement is just like a nice simple sentence. 4 children end up on an adventure to make their way home after being lost in the galaxy, following a discovery they make on their home planet. So this could be one adventure, and they could definitely set the scene up if it feels right and organic for the characters to be on subsequent adventures once they get home after the little Lost in Space escapade.
There you go.
That's a good way to start. Yeah, like Lost in Space, like that type of stuff.
Grandmaster says the timeline of Skeleton Crew is 5 years after Jedi 3, which puts it 3 years after Mando and Book of Boba, so 25 years before Force Awakens. So
I guess this is after the first 3 seasons of Mando and Book of Boba Fett. So, which means that if you're right. I think the pirate captain did get killed, so it would just be remnants of the crew or whatever.
Potentially Vane leading that group, or what happens to Vane when he no longer has a group.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Last question, and then we'll end because we are going long. Other than Hondo, what surprises would you want to be in this show?
Again, and they're not going to do it, but use the EU to do those random deep cuts. Like have them come across something. It doesn't even have to be the focus of a whole episode. Yeah. Like you see something, it's like, oh, I remember that from this book or that other thing. Like things to help populate, stuff like that. That would be fun as far as type of Easter eggs which feel natural, and because I assume that each episode, given that it is like however many, it's like 8 or something like that, or 6, and that they're going to come across different things, I assume, in each episode, like different little adventures. So yeah, I would prefer some deep cuts.
That would be
Not
nice.
not like in your face references,
Right.
but
You don't need to be, this is, the search for Luke Skywalker's hand or whatever thing. But
Yeah,
right.
Please don't be that.
this is
Stay away from Tatooine. No Tatooine, please.
Yeah, no,
desert planet.
Tatooine. Don't go to Tatooine.
No
stay
desert
away
planets.
from desert planets. Period.
Yeah.
Who doesn't know
planets.
desert planets?
Yeah,
Unless it's blue and has purple
episodes.
rain or
So
something.
December 5th, we get 1 and 2. The 12th, 3. 19th, 4. 26th, 5. January 2nd, episode 6. 9th, 7. And January the 16th, we would get episode 8.
So it does drop on the 5th.
That is
The
what
trailer still says.
that is what the trailer says. I
It says the
thought
third,
said
yeah.
third.
Yeah,
I'm
'cause
looking
I just went
at-
through it on a.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I brought up the wrong thing. I was looking at, that is what our watch schedule will be on the network.
Okay.
So I had the wrong graphic. That is when we will watch it. So we'll
Oh, on
watch
the 5th, right?
on
Thursday.
the Thursday the 5th. So it will come out Tuesday the 3rd, and
All
we
right.
will
Okay.
watch it.
So just subtract 2 from each of those dates.
Yep. So subtract 2 from each of those.
That's fair enough.
That is it.
10
So
episodes.
is the EU canon? It depends on what part of the EU. They're bringing back so much of the EU into Ahsoka, and they brought back some of the EU into Rebels. Like Thrawn in general was EU, but now that is canon because they've drawn on that.
I think my interpretation of when they said they're rebranding it as Legends means that it's still canon until a new writer comes along and retcons it, which doesn't really help, but that's kind of what that means.
That's a nice.
Like
way
I
to
heard
look at it.
people saying, "Oh, if Darth Plagueis novel isn't canon, we should rewrite it." It's like, why? Nothing's affected by it. It's
Right.
like it's still there. Leave it alone.
Well, and now again, some of that is potentially canon because Plagueis appears in Acolyte.
Right, but that's not part. That's so far removed on the timeline from the Darth Plagueis novel that that it's kind of, it doesn't really affect that book one way or another.
Don't know what part of it is or not because he's there. Anyway,
And technically, it won't be a popular decision, but if they feel that, well, Acolyte didn't work, we want to get around this, they could just say, hey, we never said that was Darth Plagueis. They could just pretend it's somebody else and get out of it. But again, there's no reason to do that right now because it didn't really affect anything either way. So
no. No.
Yeah, or say it's a Plagueis clone and add a U or vowel randomly into it, like the
Plagueis
clone
with
from
3
Heir to the
U's.
Empire.
Plagueis.
Plagueis.
see, that's what I hear when people say make the EU canon. They remember things like that.
Luke.
Oh yes.
I'm so glad they cut that Return of the Jedi scene. When he's constructing the green lightsaber with R2, that was from the beginning of Return of the Jedi that they removed, because it starts off with Vader saying Luke, and it just sounds like a parody.
Plus, it's a better surprise when you first get to see the lightsaber when R2 shoots it out of his head and he catches it.
Oh yeah, that triumphant moment, definitely. Yeah.
But anyway, stay with us, friends, for many other content. Thanks for watching today. We've got so many events coming on the channel. We've got so many events coming up in person. Looking forward to seeing many of you in Japan. We've got our Not So Virtual Cantina special edition coming up there all the way Thursday, April the 17th. So we'll be able to talk about all of this Skeleton Crew things and what happened, and talk about the potential for visions and all of the things. When we meet up at the hub, and I'm not even going to try and say the name of the place. I don't know. I'm just calling it the hub. And that's going to be sponsored by our friends over there at Hyperspace Props, are helping sponsor that event. It's going to be a cool event.
Yes, check out Hyperspace Props. Great company there.
Hyperspace Prop has some cool stuff. I keep saying is I've got the stuff still put away from our trip. Is I haven't gotten the credits that I bought out. But they're just so they really feel real. They really feel good. And I've got credits from different things. Is I've got the credits from my like Hasbro Sabak game, which are just basically like cardstock. And I've got some 3D printed credits, which I like and are a nice thing as well. But then the real metal credits are crazy train.
And make sure for Virtual Cantina Network to like, share, and subscribe. Also, since this is apparently the first show in years, literally, that we've had live viewers and live comments, please, we will keep doing the show live if you guys keep showing up. So we will be back live every second and fourth Sunday of the month. The next show will be Sunday, December 8th, live streaming at 8 a.m. Pacific time. We will do a quick recap of the first episodes of Skeleton Crew and then talk about whatever else we want to talk about for the rest of that episode. I know we did go a bit long today, but that's fine because people are still here, which means that's great. There's interest, which is good because I haven't been able to gauge interest on the show.
Yeah, it's been tough.
So it's nice that we have some interest.
Yeah, appreciate all the comments and interactions. It's been really fun and organically feeding into our conversation. So, as everyone's been saying, stay tuned and join us again.
All righty. And until the next time.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you all. Thank you.